Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because folks, life's too short to be miserable. Welcome back, folks. Guess what? It is another day in paradise. Seriously, some days I'm like, I woke up on the right side of the ground, so I am doing good. I am doing good. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen after this. I just don't know. But you know what? I'm here today, and that is one more day where I can come on and inspire you. So thank you for coming back and listening. We've kind of been a little bit on a solo show situation here for the past few episodes. And really, that's just because I want to take some time to encourage you, let you know some things that's on my mind that I've learned, that I've picked up, that have helped me along the journey, and hopefully will help you along the journey too. And so I recently read a book, and let me tell y'all how I read books around here, folks. I read a little bit, and I'll read a little bit of another book, and then eventually maybe I'll get through a book. But this is actually a book that I got through this year, which I feel like bears mentioning. And that's why I'm going to tell you about it, because I think it could be a good book for you. Now, I will say this is not necessarily the book that everybody wants to pick up and grab. And in fact, I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of this year, when I picked up this book that somebody recommended, like, what's the best business book or what most recent inspiring book that you've read? And somebody told me about this book. I said, oh, Lord, that sounds like a lot of work and I'm tired already. But actually, this book surprised me so much. And it's really about how to create possibilities. So I'm like, perfect for this show. So I'm sure you're wondering, what book am I talking about? And it is a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And in this book, they talk about how world-class entrepreneurs achieve more by doing less. So you may listen and not be an entrepreneur, and that's okay, because I think there's some things about this book that can be applied to anybody's life. So if you're an entrepreneur, go pick up a copy. If you're not, that's okay. Pick up a copy too. Or you can just listen to this podcast and get the main takeaways and hopefully learn how to create some more possibilities for yourself. Okay. So the reason why I really resonated with this book, because it was surprising to me that it wasn't saying like 10X. When I think 10X is easier than 2X, I'm thinking like 10X your work, like do more work. And that's not it at all. It's the fact that sometimes setting bigger versus smaller goals can actually really force you in a way to prioritize what you need to be doing. Okay. So I'm going to talk about in this episode core concepts. I'm going to ask some reflective questions for you and hopefully outline some practical steps to help you apply the 10X mindset in your life based off the ideas that are in this book. So let's get started, shall we? Well, the first idea of this book, and the core idea of 10X thinking, is how setting goals that are 10 times bigger require a complete mindset shift. And I've told y'all, one of the biggest things for you to create possibilities is to shift this mind. We've talked about how to let go of limiting beliefs. We've had guests on that have really talked about how to shift mindset, that have been really powerful conversations. But when you are setting a goal that's 10 times bigger, you can't think no longer on a small scale. You have to think bigger. 2X thinking involves small incremental improvements that often keep us stuck in old patterns. And the reason why 10X is easier, surprisingly, is it forces you to focus on what really matter and eliminate distractions. And I don't know about y'all, but I am so easily distracted these days. And so if I can focus on what really matters and eliminate distractions. And it can lead to exponential results by thinking creatively and then using my strengths and talents to figure out how to get there. Then sign me up. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And we're also going to talk about kind of how does this 10x mindset help us break through some of these old patterns that we have been stuck in. So I want to ask you just to start, what would your life or business look like if you multiplied your goals by 10? What would need to change? So, one of the cool principles in this book is the 80/20 principle. And you may have heard this principle before, but in 10x thinking, what they believe is that 80% of what you're currently doing doesn't actually contribute to your biggest breakthroughs for your goals. And so the question is how can you learn to focus on the 20%? Forget the 80s, eliminate the 80. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But like, what are the activities, habits, and relationships that create the most impact for you? And how can you focus on that 20%? Okay. Because typically, 80% of what you're doing doesn't always contribute to your biggest breakthroughs if you really think about this. So this 10x thinking forces you to focus on the 20% and get clear on what are those activities or habits or relationships that create the most impact. And you're kind of shifting from a quantity to quality model of thinking. And this is hard because our world is full of this hustle culture thing, this whole hustle culture. And a lot of times we think by doing more, you'll get 10x. And what I'm learning, especially in a lot of the podcasts I've been listening to myself and just learning from people that have gone before and that have really created some pretty phenomenal things, they have typically gotten really good at doing the right things. So 10x goals is not about doing more, it's doing the right things and letting go of what's not aligned with your bigger vision. And I have a mentor of mine who I've done consulting work with where they've consulted me on just kind of some business strategies and also things to think about as my role continues to change and expand between in what I do in my day-to-day life. And they've challenged me to think of like, what should I be working on and how do I get in that frame of mind that just because I can doesn't mean I should. And I was raised very much like sometimes if you can, you should. And not in a way that was like negative. I mean, I come from like a bunch of hardworking people that like if you can do that thing, go do it. If you can pick up that, pile, that stick in the yard, you should pick it up. And I have lived my whole life like that. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, even today I went and put together something at one of the offices that really maybe have not have been the right thing that I should have been focused on, but it actually was the right thing for me today because I feel like I was able to really lean into some of that servant leadership that I really enjoy serving those that I lead. It's just a passion of mine and I don't always get to do it. And so when I get opportunities to do that, even if it's putting together a piece of furniture, it is fulfilling to me. But you are shifting from that quantity to quality mindset and being able to think about what is the right things that I could be doing, not necessarily I can do everything and I should do it. No, what is the things that actually could create the most impact in your role? And this could even be in your life. I'll be honest with you. I've through volunteer work, I've met a lot of people and I really love the heart of the people that I volunteer with. But there are some times when I observe them like running themselves ragged. And what I mean is like they're wearing so many hats. I'm like, surely the car is going to stop and run out of gas at some point. And so I think that when you're thinking about this and you think about it in the seasons of your life as well, so not in just like for all time, but like in this season, what is the 20% I need to be focusing on right now in my life? So younger me with a baby focused on a lot different things than older me with a teenager does, right? Like there's different seasons of your life that you go through that requires a different level of focus for different areas of your life. And so again, sometimes with these 10x goals, it's not about doing more, it's about doing what's most important. And so I want you to think about what 80% of your current efforts could you stop doing? This could also be commitments, folks. Like, what are things that you maybe are committed to that you could stop doing? And how would that free up your time and energy for your top 20%? And actually, as I'm reading this question, I'm thinking to myself, Christy, you really got to continue to do some of this work here. Because I mean, it's crazy to think that sometimes there's stuff I really need to stop doing. It doesn't mean I can't do it. But it doesn't mean I should be doing it. And, I recently had this experience in my team where I worked on something that honestly took me just a few days to do, but it has created some of the biggest impact in our organization. A few days to do, biggest impact. However, I had to free up the time and energy and knock out some of this 80% that I was doing to be able to do that. And it was able to create a really big impact. So, whether it be in work or in life, what are 80% of your current efforts could you stop doing? And how would that free up time and energy for your top 20%? And sometimes I think the exercise in the book, again, go get the book if this is sounding intriguing to you. Again, it's called 10X is easier than 2X. They lead you through an exercise is to list out what you're doing and what actually contributes to what could contribute to your biggest goals and biggest breakthroughs. Another identity shift for 10X goals is 10X growth requires you to let go of your current identity and embrace a new version of yourself. And folks, this is hard because we all don't know what's always possible for that next version of ourselves. And sometimes we are comfortable with a current version of ourselves. Sometimes when I really think about 10X growth of like, if I really pushed myself to do things like maybe write a book or go speak on more stages or go find ways to impact more people or find ways to expand so that we could be of greater service to others. Or how about 10X my relationship? How could I be like a even better, more present person for the major people in my life, like my daughter or my family or my boyfriend or whoever that is? When I think about 10X growth and realizing that it was going to require me to let go of my current identity, that can be scary, because it's like, oh, well, who am I going to be if I am letting go of what I am now? But 10X growth requires you to embrace this new version of yourself before you even become it. You know, it's kind of like when I sometimes start to run, I try to tell myself, I am a runner. I'm going to embrace this new identity. Now, I have yet to become a runner, folks, but I know I have to let go of my current identity of like not liked to run to actually embrace a new vision of myself if I wanted to run. So I just want you to think about that. Your 2X mindset keeps you tied to who you are now, while 10X forces you to think about who you need to become. So who do you need to become the version of yourself you want to be? I mean, it's crazy, but 10X forces you to think about who you need to become to create that goal and make that goal a reality. And reinvention through goals. 10X focus forces growth and transformation. I mean, when you're going 10X in your life, you're going to have to upgrade your skills. You have to upgrade your mindset and approach to align with this bigger vision. There's part of me that wishes I could tell you that every time you grow into a newer version of yourself, you're not going to have to acquire new skills or a new even mindset. But every time that you go for something more than you have gone before, and I don't like this version more because I think that more is not always better, but I would say this like where you want to become, this goal you want to create. I think sometimes our society has a negative connotation associated with more. So, anyways, but I'm not going to go into that. But this 10X thinking requires you to focus on growth and transformation. And to get to where you want to be, you have to learn new skills. I always say, or I don't know who said it, but I think about it, what got us here is not going to get us there. And so even in my own life, what got me here in my relationship is not going to get me to the next level of my relationship. What got me here in my parenting, as parenting a teenager, I can promise you is not going to get me to getting my child into young adulthood. You know, there are different skills that I am having to upgrade. There are different mindsets that I'm having to adopt. And when I think about where I want to go next, there has to be that vision driven and focus on those vision driven decisions rather than maintaining past habits or routines. Let me repeat that for the people on the back. Sometimes when you're focused on these goals and they're 10x, you have to focus on vision driven decisions rather than maintaining past habits or routines. And this is important because I can stay stuck on the way things are always done and say those ways are good enough. I can't tell you even like my habits with working out. Like, guys, I have about to be at the 40 mark. I'm still a young spring chicken, but I'm about to hit the 40 mark. And I can tell my body is starting to do things as a almost 40-year-old woman that it did not do in its 20s. Okay. I'm a little salty about it, but it's just the reality of what happens when you get a little bit older. Okay. And I realized that if I maintain my past habits or routines and I still want to look like I did when I was 32, it ain't going to happen. Okay. So, like, that's the best way I can explain this is that when you are focused on a vision and you are focused on vision driven decisions, you have to let go of things that maybe got you to where you are. And you have to figure out how to adopt new skills, new mindset, new approach. So I want you to think of who do you need to become in order to achieve your 10x goal. And you might be like, Christy, I ain't got no 10x goal. I'm still working on the 2x. And listen, honey, I got you. I am there with you. But I'm going to challenge you at the end of this podcast here episode today to think of you a 10x goal. And then I want you to think about, and when I want you to 10x goal, I want you to go crazy, folks. I want you to imagine. I want you to sit there with your eyes closed. Maybe you could go lay out on the green earth. I don't know. And I want you to imagine to yourself, maybe you can do it right now. Just hopefully you're not driving. What would a 10x goal be for me? Like, what would be such a life transformation that this would be crazy if this happened in my life, but I would love it. And that could be your 10x goal. And so then when you think about who you need to become to achieve your 10x goal, I am going to ask you a question that I know we've talked about here on this podcast is what beliefs or habits do you need to let go of? Because folks, you can't take it into the new version 10.0 of you. You got to let some of that stuff go. So here's some practical steps, okay? Because I got to give y'all some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to apply the 10x mindset. But seriously, if this is all intriguing, get the book. Okay. That's my disclosure, disclaimer. And I am not affiliate marketer for the book, but it's good. So here's some practical steps to apply this 10x mindset. Number 1, clarify your 10x goal. Choose a goal that excites you and scares you all at the same time. That's this fun thing about this goal setting things, folks. Like, it's exciting. Like, when you think about something you want to create, a new version of yourself you want to create, something you want to create differently for your life, your business, your job, whatever, it is going to be exciting. But it's also going to scare you because it's going to be like, how in the heck is that going to happen? So choose a goal that excites you and scares you at the same time. And I want you to write it down and ask yourself why achieving this would be transformational, whatever that word is for your life. Okay. Write it down. Ask yourself why achieving this would be transformational. And look, when you write it down, if you need an accountability buddy, because we talked about accountability in a previous episode, y'all email it to me, Christy@ChristyPennison.com. Pretty easy. But if you don't know how to spell my name, look at it in the show notes. Okay. Send it to me so that way I can hold you accountable. And I also want to know the why. Why would this be transformational? Then the next step, that's step number 1, clarify your 10x goal. Step number 2, identify your top 20%. So I want you to evaluate your current actions and strip away anything that doesn't directly contribute to this bigger goal. Now, some of y'all might be like, Christy, I still got to do all these laundry and these basic life chores that just don't escape me. Still, guys, that's what we're trying to focus on is how can you strip away and focus more on this 20%, this bigger goal. And I want you to prioritize high impact activities. These are activities that are going to get me closer to my goal, the ones that move the needle. And then step 3 is to leverage relationships and opportunities. 10x thinking involves partnerships, collaboration, leveraging resources outside of yourself. If you think you're going to get to a goal without some other people, especially a 10x one, think again, folks. I want you to think about who do you need to ask, to partner with, to collaborate with, to learn from, to figure out the skills that you need outside of yourself to reach this goal. I'll be honest with you. I actually did this today. No, kid you not. We have a 10, I guess it would be a 10X goal. I need to think about this in the context of if it is, but it's a pretty big goal. We're trying to do a new programming in our business. And I was working with my lovely friend ChatGPT to create some strategy around this and really get some ideas of what the next steps we need to take. So guess what? You can use AI to help you figure out what the next steps you are. It's crazy, but sometimes it helps for real. But one of the things I started realizing is I'm like, well, there's this one piece that I really need somebody who is an expert in this to weigh in on. And there was a girl that I know teaches all about this thing that we were wanting to do. And so I emailed her and I was like, listen, I saw you're offering this thing, but I don't think it's really applicable to where I'm at. Do you offer 1 hour, pick your brain situations? And she said yes. And she emailed me back. She said, here's my scheduling. This is how much it costs. And you know what, guys? I could have been cheapo steepo and said, no, I'm not going to necessarily pay that money. And again, sometimes you got to learn through the books and everything. You got to do the cheaper things. But in this situation, I knew that this would be an investment well spent. And so I invested in meeting with this person. And she is helping me think 10X about this goal already. So who can help you multiply your efforts? And what new opportunities are available if you think bigger? And guys, we don't know how to think bigger. I am from small town Ball, Louisiana. The only way I think bigger is if I get myself around people who think differently and bigger than me. It could be through listening to a podcast, reading a book, whatever it is. But I have to get around people and listen to people that think bigger than me. Because if not, I just naturally don't know where it could go. And so I limit myself or the goal. And I don't want to think small. And that's step 4, start small, but think big. So even though the vision is 10X, begin with practical steps that align with your goal. Each day, ask yourself, is what I'm doing today aligned with my 10X vision? And then I want you to think about what is one small action you can take today that aligns with your 10X goal. So let me recap some points for you today. 10X thinking requires focus on 20% that matters, a shift in identity, and bold visionary goals. Remember, step 1, clarify your 10X goal. Number 2, identify your top 20%. Step 3, leverage relationships and opportunities. Step 4, start small, but think big, folks. And just remember, sometimes it's easier to think big because it forces you to get out of your own way. And sometimes we are our biggest obstacle. So sometimes here's a sign. If you haven't seen it yet, get out of your own way. Okay. And I want to encourage you to reflect on your own goals. Where can you apply this 10X mindset? Where can you apply it? Think about that. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening again. Please, again, if you create that 10X goal, email me over, DM me, do something, get it by me, carry pigeon, because I want to know. But I also want to remind you that guess what? Start small, but think big. And you never know. That future version of you is waiting for you to become so you can make that 10X goal a reality. Keep going. Until next time.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.